Shake, 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 Sinora, shake it all the time.
When you add a shake of Frank's Red Hot, you open a world of better. A world where wings bring out the flavor of game day any day, and where buffalo chicken dip takes any party up a notch. It's the perfect blend of flavor and heat. Frank's Red Hot. I put that on everything.
Guys, welcome to the Bird Brain Podcast, where the goal is to rise above it all, stay elevated, create that infinity, and up your you. I'm your host, Isaiah, and had an amazing birthday, y'all. It was an amazing time, and much needed. And like every birthday, I always learned something. And this one in particular, like so many others, I was reminded that I don't have to remind others to celebrate me. And I'll explain what that is, because it ties into, the idea of your self-worth and working to sustain relationships, because it may feel as though somebody is not working to be there. So it's interesting, and I just learned a lot, and I'm very grateful for it all. So we're going to get into it, all right? Wear your seatbelt, drink some water, and let's get on it. Stay tuned. Guys, was good. I almost said happy birthday again. But if you are celebrating a birthday out there, I want to wish you a happy birthday. It's Aries season, baby. So hope you guys are enjoying yourselves and having an amazing birthday with space to be celebrated, recognized, and valued. That's what it was for me. I know this. My birthday last year. I think if you find the episode, I talked about one of my friends not allowing me to bake my own birthday cake. And that all stemmed from this idea of doing as much as I possibly can for myself, so other people won't feel obligated or feel burdened to just celebrate me, right? And this year, last year's birthday, there were people that didn't show, and there were years prior to that where the same thing happened. And, I know for me, I've made it a point to kind of like find ways to avoid people not showing up for me by just showing up for myself, right? I mean, super self-sufficient, so it's like I can't be disappointed, even down to my own birthday cake. This year, it was different, because I settled into this idea of you don't have to remind people to celebrate you. If there's anything I learned, being around my friends and like the people I, that called, that reached out or made it a point to just spend the day with me to some capacity, that on their own accord, like I didn't feel like I was reminding them. It's a different feeling, right? It's a different feeling. And I feel like I've spent a lot of time feeling like I had to remind people to show up for me. Like I gotta hey, I'm still here, or hey, do you think you could just be present, or hey, do you think you could be happy for me, or do you think that you could celebrate me, or I don't care what it was, but on my birthday, there were people that said some very amazing things and just like really leaned into the idea of like, this is Isaiah, this is my brother, this is my friend, whatever the case may be, and this is why I value him. And it felt amazing, right? It's interesting to see what impact you have on people, again, without prompt, versus the people you feel like you're trying to chase down or just have them a part of your space. It's a different feeling. It feels like work, and it's a gross feeling because it feels like you were kind of begging somebody to be present in your life versus them just wanting to be there. And I think after this birthday, I realized how easy it is, because shout out to my friend Mal. She really made it a point for me to have a solid ass birthday. And I had my friends Josh and Laurel show up, and it was just like a collective where I felt at peace. Like I wasn't stressing about who was going to be there. I knew who was going to show up, and that's a big difference. You know, worrying about who's going to show up, worrying about who's going to be there versus worry about if somebody's going to show up versus who's already there, right? Who you know with confidence. And I think that comes from this, when you don't have confidence in your connections, right? Because you don't trust that the other person's going to show up. You really can't pinpoint it. And I don't like that feeling. So once I start feeling that way, I step back, and I reevaluate. And I do it kind of under the surface. Maybe I'll have a conversation about certain things, but overall, once it starts to feel like I'm not really a priority, I don't remind somebody to make me a priority, right? I disconnect, because what it shows me is like, you have your priorities sorted out and I'm not one of them. And I'm not going to force you to make me one of them, because now it feels burdensome. Now it feels obligatory. And no relationships should you feel like somebody feels obligated to be present for you. Especially, again, one of the things I've learned about myself is that I've done a lot in these last years. I've been through a lot, but I've also done a lot. I've made it a point to be very present. And I was having a conversation with my buddy, and one of the things they asked, they were like, well, what do you look for? Like, whether it's a relationship or whatever the case may be, like, what do you look for? And I was like, you know what? At this point in time, there's not so much I'm looking for as much as what I'm looking out for. Maybe it's a good thing or it's a bad thing, but I'll share this with you guys. Like, if you're on your healing journey, and let's say you're used to being everything for everybody, and because of that, you've been put on the back burner in so many ways, where it's just like you're an afterthought, or you feel like an afterthought to people. When you're healing, it's a pendulum, right? You swing hard one way, and then that pendulum, the momentum of it has to swing back very hard the other way. So you may be in this season of where you are just kind of like, your tolerance for shit is just not there. It's just not there. Like, you don't have the capacity to have like dormant relationships in your life where people could just kind of treat you however and it rolls off your back. You're not willing to cultivate space with those kinds of people. If somebody's showing you that they're not really looking to be active in your life past their convenience, you don't want it. And that's where I am. So I told him, I was like, truth be told, like, there's so much I've noticed, or just like little things I'm aware of, that I'm not eager to just have community with just anybody. And, you know, even leading up to the year, like to this point, as you guys heard in my previous episodes, like, there's been a lot I've been journeying through. And finally understanding that I don't have to prove myself. I don't have to remind people to be in my life either, because I'm reminding you to be in my life. And it's like, I know who the people in my life, I'm going to do my best to take care of them. I'm reminding you to be there for me to show up for you. But yet and still, I also have to remind you to hopefully show up for me, even in a small way. Like, I have to remind you of that, because otherwise you don't consider it, like it's not a priority for you. And, you know, that's why I'm kind of moving out of the territory of being the strong friend, being the one that everybody can go to. No, I'm not doing that anymore. The reason being is because some of my darkest days, right, guys? Some of my darkest moments, there were very few people that just came in with a flashlight, like, hey, you good? Just making sure. And, you know, I saw this video where this guy was talking about how, you know, checking up on your strong friend versus having a consistent rapport is very different. Because checking up means like you come around every 4 months or something like that, and you just do like what's that I forget what it's called when they do a wellness check, right? A wellness check versus like being a participant in my life. And I know for me now, I'm not looking to prove myself to anyone. Like, I know what kind of person I am, and I'm not looking for people to prove who they are to me. They will show me who they are, but you're not being put through trials to prove yourself. Like, I don't have the space for it. I don't have the energy for it. So it's like I'm just looking more at natural occurrences, like how someone operates outside of my impression. What do they feel inclined to do when it comes to me? How do they feel inclined to treat me when I'm not prompting them? Like, what does that look like? And that's what I go with. And I trust how I feel about that. Because everybody can say things, but it's what they show you, right? And it's how they make you feel. That's the most important. So that's where I've been, and moving into this new space, like coming out of so much that's been happening. It's not to say that those things have dissipated. They're still very present. But I think now I'm just looking at it in a new way of like, you know what? I work. I've done the work. And people see that. Whether or not they appreciate it has nothing to do with me, but they see it. And I think we are in this generation now too, where people surveil your life, right? They siphon your life without necessarily being an active participant or supporting it because it's social media. But I noticed there's also this level of flippancy in relationships in society nowadays, where it's like back in the day, you didn't know what was going on in somebody's life unless you were a part of it. Or maybe you heard through the grapevine, but overall, it's like you couldn't peer into somebody's life without being there for them. And I feel like now that's the status quo, where people are cool watching from a distance because it means that they don't have to have any responsibility in your life, but they can pick and choose what they want from it, right? So I think the biggest takeaway for my birthday again was like, I don't have to remind anybody to celebrate me or show up for me. You don't have to remind people. And once you feel like you're reminding certain people to be present for you, that's an indication that your priorities may need to shift. And maybe it might be great to reevaluate that relationship with that person because they clearly don't have you in their list of priorities. And again, I've talked about this a while ago, how, people are like, everybody has things going on. Yes, people prioritize. So to say that you are this kind of calamity that they don't have time for versus you just being a person that they want to make time for, that's what that gives off. That's the energy that gives off. And for me, whenever it feels like that's the dynamic, like, oh, I have so much going on and so many other people I value more than you that I don't have the space for you, and you should be okay with that. Be okay with it in the sense that you just tolerate it versus making changes that will now compromise my feelings and my ego about how I've treated you. That's what society runs on. It's like, I can treat you however I want, but you're not allowed to respond to it in the way that I don't want you to. And I'm over that. I'm past it. And, we're about to have some funny tummies. Oh, my friend Amber said it. It's like everybody's tummy is about to feel fucked up. In such a way of like, not protecting people from their mishandling of me, right? I don't care who it is. You're not going to feel okay just like treating me however. There's going to be some kind of consequence or response or reaction to it. And it doesn't need to be malicious, again, but it is a reaction. And I will reevaluate, or we might have a conversation, but we might not, right? Yeah, so again, the beautiful thing about this birthday was like I said, it felt amazing. And, shout out to the people who show some love. I appreciate that. It was great. It was great. It was a sweet, sweet, sweet experience. And again, it was one of the birthdays that reminded me that I don't have to remind anybody to celebrate me because the people that are for me are already looking for ways to do so. On their own without obligation. Yeah. So take that with you. And like I said, on your healing journey, you are not obligated to give anybody extra space in your life so they feel okay. They just feel comfortable. But meanwhile, you don't really have access to their life in the way that you need, right? And the way that you need in the sense of like, yeah, you want to feel like you matter. And somebody's not making you feel like that. It's like, all right, well, cool. Now I got to reevaluate where I place you. Okay, so like I said, beautiful birthday. I think every year, so I told you guys in the previous episode, every year I like to write down, however old I turn, I write down that amount of gratitudes. And something different that I did this year was when I got to 18, it just kind of happened in a weird way. At first it was just affirmations, right? I'm this, you are this, whatever. And then every number, like starting at age 18 and just going from there, I saw myself at that age and I was aware of what that Isaiah was going through at that time, what he needed, what he was working through, what it meant for him, like where he was. And it was cool to see that and just tallied up to where I am now. It was amazing. So, yeah, it's crazy. I hope you find ways to celebrate yourself wherever you are in life. Because celebration is not just about party, right? It's about weathering the storms too. And your worth is not determined by what people think of you. That's not what your worth is determined by. And also too, your worth is determined by how many worthless exchanges or situations you survive. Like, you're worth a lot. And anyone who is unsure about your worth, make it clear to them by removing yourself or removing them from your space. Okay? Or removing yourself from theirs. Yeah, so that's it. That's it and that's all. It was a great birthday. It was amazing. And I'm grateful for another year, and I love the way that things are kind of transitioning and just seeming brighter. And even though there's so many things I have yet to do and that I'm like eager to do, there's so much I've already accomplished, and that is worth celebrating. So that's where I am. I hope you guys have an amazing week. Yeah, if you be so kind, head on over to iTunes or Spotify, leave a review, leave a rating. If you want to become a Patreon supporter, shout out to my Patreon, showing love. The link is in the bio, the description of this episode. You can become a patron. Starts at $5 a month. You get bonus content, early access, and the coloring book is still available too. If you have the coloring book and you want to do a solid for the book, head on over to Amazon or Barnes & Nobles and just leave a rating. That helps build too. Yeah, anything you guys can do to show love, it's appreciated. And, it's valued. So yes, with that being said, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. All right, and take flight.